The trade station called Karin's Spine floated alone near a dead star, far from safe routes and honest laws. It was an old place, built from metal rings and patched parts taken from lost ships. Most travelers avoided it. Those who came did not ask questions. They came to buy things that were not supposed to be sold. Inside the main auction hall, bright white lights shone down on a raised platform. Hundreds of alien buyers filled the seats, their voices loud and eager. Different species crowded together: scaled traders, tall insect-like nobles, heavy armored mercenaries, and thin merchants with too many eyes. The air smelled of metal, oil, and greed. At the center of the platform hung 5 figures. They were alive. The 5 alien women were restrained by gravity clamps attached to the ceiling, their bodies held upside down, suspended just above the floor. The position drained their strength. Blood rushed to their heads, making their vision blur. Their limbs were bound so they could not move much, but not enough to make them lose feeling. The auction masters wanted them awake. A broken body sold for less. Each woman was different. One had blue skin marked with silver lines, her species known for deep thinking and science. Another had short horns and ash-colored skin, once a soldier by the look of her scars. The third was small and pale, with wide eyes and soft hands, clearly a healer. The fourth wore the remains of noble clothing, torn and dirty but once fine. The fifth looked the youngest, with green-tinted skin and rough clothing, a worker taken from some distant colony. They did not cry out, not anymore. They had learned it brought laughter. The auctioneer stepped forward, his voice amplified through the hall. "Honored buyers," he said proudly, "today's main attraction is rare. 5 high-value females captured from different systems, strong, useful, and still alive. Their resistance shows quality." The crowd reacted with approval. Some clapped. Others made sounds of hunger or interest. The blue-skinned woman squeezed her eyes shut, trying to hold on to consciousness. The soldier clenched her jaw, anger burning behind her tired eyes. The healer whispered a quiet prayer in her language. The noble stared at the floor, her pride cracked but not gone. The youngest tried not to shake, thinking of home. The auctioneer continued. "As you can see, they are being kept motivated. The longer the auction lasts, the weaker they become. So bid quickly." Laughter rippled through the hall. No one stopped it. No one ever did. Then, far from the auction hall, a docking signal echoed through the station. A small human ship locked onto one of Karin's Spine's outer bays. The station control AI marked the arrival as low priority. Humans rarely came here. They were considered unpredictable and poor compared to the great alien trading houses. Still, docking fees were docking fees. The airlock opened, and a single human stepped inside. His name was Ethan Hale. He wore a simple spacer jacket, worn boots, and no visible weapons. His hair was dark and unremarkable, his face tired but alert. He carried no crew and no escort. To anyone watching, he looked like a trader who had made a wrong turn. As he walked through the narrow halls of the station, he felt something was wrong. He had been in rough ports before, but this place felt heavier. Too quiet in the wrong ways. Too many armed guards standing where guards were not needed. He followed the flow of movement until voices grew louder. When he reached the auction hall entrance, he stopped. The sound hit him first, cheering, bidding, excitement. Then he saw the platform. Ethan froze. He had seen death before. He had fought in border wars and watched ships break apart in space. But this was different. This was not battle. This was cruelty turned into entertainment. His eyes locked onto the 5 hanging figures. For a moment, he forgot to breathe. The youngest one's eyes met his. She did not know what a human was. She did not know if he was another buyer. But something in his face made her heart beat faster, not with fear, but with a tiny spark of hope she hated herself for feeling. Ethan stepped forward into the hall. The crowd barely noticed him at first. He was just one small figure among many powerful beings. A few aliens glanced his way and dismissed him immediately. The auctioneer raised a hand. "Let the bidding begin. Starting price." "Wait." The word was quiet, but it cut through the noise. The auctioneer paused. Slowly he looked toward the human. "Who spoke?" he demanded. Ethan took another step forward. "I did." The hall fell into confused murmurs. "A human? Here." The auctioneer frowned. "This is a registered auction. Only approved buyers may interrupt." "I'm a registered trader," Ethan replied calmly. He held up his wrist display. "Docked legally, paid your fees." That was true. The station AI confirmed it. The auctioneer's expression hardened. "Then take a seat and bid, human." Ethan did not move to sit. "What are you selling them for?" he asked instead. The question caused laughter. "For profit, of course," the auctioneer said. "What else?" "They're people," Ethan said. That caused louder laughter. The soldier among the five lifted her head slightly. She had heard those words before, always followed by pain. She did not dare believe them now. The auctioneer sneered. "Human, you are far from your kind. Here, value is determined by strength and ownership." These females lost both. Ethan looked at the restraints, the weakening clamps, the calculated cruelty. "No," he said, "you took it from them." A tall alien buyer stood up. "Enough of this. Remove the human." Security guards shifted, their weapons glowing softly. Ethan raised his hands, not in surrender, but to show he was not reaching for anything. "I'm not here to fight," he said. "I'm here to bid." The auctioneer smiled. "Do you even have the credits?" Ethan met his gaze. "Not for your starting price." The crowd roared with mockery. "Then leave," the auctioneer said. Ethan shook his head. "I won't." The station grew tense. The noblewoman among the prisoners watched him carefully. She had ruled once. She knew courage when she saw it, and she also knew how fragile it was. "Human," she whispered softly, though she did not know if he could hear. "Go, they will kill you." Ethan did not hear her words, but somehow he understood the meaning in her eyes. "I won't bid with money," he said loudly. "I'll bid with truth." The auctioneer laughed. "Truth has no value here." "That's where you're wrong," Ethan replied. "This station operates under the Outer Trade Accords. Section 9 forbids the sale of sentient prisoners captured during non-declared conflicts." Murmurs spread through the crowd. The auctioneer's smile twitched. Ethan continued. "3 of these women are from systems not currently at war with anyone here. One is registered as protected nobility under galactic convention law. And the healer," he pointed gently, "belongs to a species classified as non-combatant by default." The auctioneer snapped. "Lies." Ethan tapped his wrist display. "All verified. I sent the data to the station AI when I docked." The AI's neutral voice echoed through the hall. "Verification in progress." The crowd shifted, uneasy now. The soldier's eyes widened slightly. The healer began to cry silently. The auctioneer growled. "Seize him." The guards moved. Before they could reach him, the AI spoke again. "Verification complete. Multiple violations detected." The hall exploded into noise. Ethan stood his ground, heart pounding, knowing this was the most dangerous moment. He was one man, unarmed, surrounded by criminals who hated being exposed. "I've also transmitted copies," he said steadily, "to 3 neutral fleets and 2 rival trading alliances. If anything happens to me or to them," he nodded toward the prisoners, "this station becomes a target." Silence fell like a blade. The auctioneer's face darkened with rage. The clamps holding the 5 women loosened slightly, shifting them to a safer angle as the AI adjusted protocols. The youngest alien gasped as blood flow eased. She laughed weakly, unable to stop herself. Ethan finally looked up at them directly. "I'm here," he said softly. "You're not alone." For the first time since their capture, hope was not a lie. And for the first time in years, Karen's spine faced something it had never prepared for. A human who refused to look away. The auction hall did not return to normal after the AI announced the violations. The noise did not become anger right away. First came confusion. Buyers looked at one another, unsure whether to leave, protest, or fight. This station was built on crime, but crime only worked when everyone pretended it was legal. Ethan stood still at the center of the hall. His heart was beating hard, but his face stayed calm. He knew this moment was fragile. If he showed fear, the crowd would sense weakness. If he showed anger, security would have an excuse. The auctioneer recovered first. "This station is independent," he said loudly. "Outer trade accords do not apply here." The AI responded in its flat voice. "Correction. Karen's Spine is registered as a neutral trade hub under provisional status. Compliance is mandatory." Murmurs spread again. Several buyers stood up and began to leave. They did not want to be connected to violations if fleets were watching. Others stayed, eyes sharp, calculating how this situation could still benefit them. The guards hesitated. They looked to the auctioneer, waiting for orders that would not destroy them later. The 5 alien women hung silently. The clamps had shifted them so they were no longer fully upside down, but their bodies were still weak. Even so, they watched everything closely now. Something had changed. The air felt different. The soldier woman tested her fingers, feeling strength slowly return. The healer focused on steady breathing. The noblewoman lifted her chin, dignity slowly rebuilding inside her. The scholar studied Ethan with careful interest. The youngest one simply stared at him, afraid to blink. The auctioneer narrowed his eyes at Ethan. "You planned this." Ethan nodded once. "I plan to stop it." "You're alone," the auctioneer said. "Your fleets are hours away." "That's enough," Ethan replied. "You don't need them to arrive, you just need to believe they will." The auctioneer understood then. Fear was the weapon. He turned to the crowd. "This auction is suspended. Buyers may remain until the situation is resolved." That was a mistake. More buyers left immediately. The room thinned, power draining away with each departing ship. The auctioneer turned back to Ethan, his voice low. "You've made enemies." "I already had some," Ethan said. The auctioneer gestured sharply. "Release the assets, temporarily." The guards moved toward the control panel. The clamps released further, lowering the 5 women gently to the platform floor. Their legs trembled as gravity returned fully. The healer collapsed to her knees, coughing. The youngest fell sideways, caught by the soldier before she hit the ground. The noblewoman forced herself to stand tall despite shaking limbs. Ethan took a step toward them. Security weapons shifted instantly. "Stay where you are," the auctioneer warned. Ethan stopped. "They need medical care." The healer looked up, surprised. She slowly raised her hand. "I can help them," she said weakly, pointing at the others. The auctioneer hesitated, then nodded sharply. "Fine, but no movement beyond the platform." The guards loosened their formation slightly. The healer crawled to the youngest first, checking her breathing, touching her wrists gently. The soldier watched the guards closely, ready to shield the others if needed. The scholar studied the room. "They are afraid," she whispered. "You shifted balance." "I didn't do it alone," Ethan replied quietly. "You're helping just by standing." The noblewoman looked at him directly. "Why?" she asked. "You gain nothing," Ethan answered without hesitation. "I gain sleep." That answer confused her more than any lie. Minutes passed. The station AI continued broadcasting violation alerts internally. Systems slowed. Docking permissions were restricted. Karen's spine was being squeezed without a single shot fired. Then the auctioneer made his move. "You've proven your point," he said. "Take them and leave." Ethan frowned. "You're just letting us go," the auctioneer smiled thinly. "I don't want attention, you don't want blood, this is clean." The scholar shook her head slightly. "It's not clean," she whispered. Ethan understood. "You'll do this again," he said. The auctioneer did not deny it. Ethan turned to the AI. "Station AI, are there other prisoners on board?" A pause. "Yes," the AI replied. "Multiple unregistered holding areas detected." The auctioneer's smile vanished. "That information is restricted." "Not anymore," Ethan said. "Emergency ethics protocol applies." Alarms began to sound, soft at first, then louder. Guards looked around nervously, some stepped back, others tightened grips on weapons. "You said you weren't here to fight," the auctioneer snapped. "I'm not," Ethan said. "I'm here to finish." The AI continued, releasing internal map data to neutral authorities. The auctioneer shouted, "Shut it down." The AI responded calmly. "Command authority revoked." Chaos erupted. Some guards ran. Others tried to regain control. Buyers who had stayed now scrambled to leave. Ethan moved quickly to the platform. "Can you walk?" he asked the 5 women. The soldier nodded. "I can fight." "No," Ethan said gently. "Today you survive." The noblewoman placed a hand on the soldier's arm. "We follow him." The healer helped the youngest to her feet. The scholar accessed a fallen guard's data pad with surprising speed. "This way," she said, pointing. "Maintenance corridors, less monitored." Ethan hesitated only a moment before trusting her. They moved together, 6 figures against a collapsing system. Blaster fire echoed in distant halls as security fought among themselves. Smoke filled the air. Lights flickered. Ethan stayed at the back, watching corners, guiding when needed. He was injured once, a grazing shot along his shoulder, but he did not slow. The youngest stumbled. Ethan caught her without thinking. She looked up at him, eyes wide. "You came." "Yes," he said, "I did." They reached an access lift leading toward the docks. The scholar worked the panel quickly. "Why help strangers?" the soldier asked as the lift moved. Ethan leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "Because someone once helped me when they didn't have to." The noblewoman studied him. "Your kind is dangerous," she said softly. Ethan smiled faintly. "That's what they tell us too." The lift opened to chaos, ships launching. Sirens, armed figures running. Ethan pointed. "My ship, small, fast." They ran. A final alarm screamed as the station AI announced, "Karen's spine provisional status suspended." As they boarded the human ship, Ethan sealed the hatch. The engines roared to life. Behind them, the station spun slowly, lights flickering like a dying star. The 5 alien women sat on the floor of the cargo hold, exhausted, alive, free. Ethan collapsed into the pilot's seat. For the first time, he allowed himself to breathe. This was not over. But they had escaped, and the galaxy had noticed. The human ship burst away from Karen's spine, its engines glowing bright as it cut through open space. Behind it, the station shrank into the distance, alarms still flashing, systems failing, its false safety finally gone. For Ethan Hale, there was no victory in watching it fall, only relief that the 6 lives aboard his ship were still breathing. Inside the small vessel, silence settled slowly. The 5 alien women sat where they had dropped, backs against the cargo wall, bodies trembling from exhaustion. The healer moved first, forcing herself upright despite the pain in her limbs. She checked each of the others carefully, gentle hands steady even while her own strength was low. The soldier had a deep bruise along her ribs. The scholar showed signs of oxygen stress. The noblewoman hid her pain well, but her pulse was fast. The youngest had faint marks from restraints, and fear still clung to her like a shadow. Ethan stayed in the pilot's seat, eyes on the stars ahead, giving them space. He did not want to frighten them more by hovering. Humans were still unknown to most of the galaxy. He knew trust would take time. The healer finally spoke. "We will live," she said softly, "but rest is needed." Ethan nodded. "I have medical packs, basic but clean." He stood slowly and opened a storage locker, placing supplies within reach, then stepped back again. The soldier watched him closely. "You do not claim ownership," she said. "No," Ethan replied. "I don't claim people." That answer stayed with all of them. The ship jumped into faster travel. As space bent and stars stretched, the youngest grabbed the floor in fear. Ethan adjusted the stabilizers immediately, slowing the transition. "It's safe," he said gently. "I should have warned you." She nodded, embarrassed. "I have never been on a ship this small." "It's not much," Ethan said, "but it gets where it needs to go." The scholar tilted her head. Where are we going? Ethan hesitated. That depends on what you want. I can take you to neutral space, refuge stations, embassies, home systems if they are safe. The noblewoman looked down at her hands. Home may no longer exist for some of us. The soldier spoke next. If we separate, they will hunt us one by one. That was the truth Ethan feared. The scholar leaned forward. The auction station transmitted records before we escaped. Many powerful groups were exposed. They will want silence. The healer added quietly and examples. The youngest swallowed. I do not want to hide forever. Ethan turned to face them fully now. Then don't stay with me for now. I won't sell you. I won't hand you over. And I won't run unless we must. The soldier studied his eyes, searching for lies. She found none. We stay, she said. The others agreed. Hours passed. The ship traveled deeper into unclaimed routes. Ethan monitored scanners constantly. He did not relax. He knew the auction network was large. Karin's spine was only one node, and he was right. A warning tone sounded. Ethan's hands moved instantly over controls. We have a tail. On the main screen, 3 ships appeared, sleek, armed, moving fast. The soldier rose despite her injuries. Hunters. The scholar accessed the console beside Ethan. They are not official military, private enforcement. Slavers, Ethan said. The noblewoman straightened. They came for us. Ethan nodded. They came to erase mistakes. The youngest looked terrified. Can we outrun them? Not with my engines, Ethan admitted, but we can outthink them. He veered the ship toward a dense asteroid field ahead. The scholar's eyes widened. That region is unstable. Exactly, Ethan replied. The pursuing ships followed, confident in their numbers. Inside the field, chaos ruled. Rocks spun and collided, gravity pulling in strange directions. Ethan flew by instinct and experience, threading narrow gaps, cutting engines at the last second, then firing them again to change direction suddenly. A blast grazed their hull. The healer cried out as the ship shook. Hold on, Ethan shouted. The soldier braced herself near the rear, watching sensors. They are splitting up. Good, Ethan said. Means they're nervous. One of the enemy ships misjudged a turn. An asteroid clipped its engine, sending it spinning away into darkness. The others hesitated. Ethan took that moment to dive toward a massive rotating rock, cutting power and drifting close to its surface. The remaining ships overshot, losing sensor lock. Silence followed. Minutes passed. The ship drifted unseen. Finally, Ethan restarted engines slowly and slipped away. The youngest laughed weakly, then cried, then laughed again. The healer held her. The noblewoman closed her eyes. You risked your life again. Ethan shrugged. Seems to be a habit. They escaped the field and continued on a new route. News reached them soon after. The scholar intercepted open broadcasts. The fall of Karin's spine has spread. Other stations are being investigated. Traitors are panicking. The soldier nodded. You started something. I didn't start it, Ethan said. I just refused to ignore it. They reached a hidden relay station days later, run by independent operators who owed Ethan old favors. Repairs were made, supplies restocked. While docked, something unexpected happened. A small crowd gathered. Aliens of many species approached the human ship, not with weapons but with curiosity and gratitude. Word had traveled faster than Ethan realized. Survivors from other stations. Families who had lost people, former captives. They did not cheer. They bowed. The noblewoman watched from the ramp, stunned. They honor you, Ethan shook his head. They honor hope. The youngest stepped beside him. You gave it back. That night, as the ship prepared to depart again, the 5 women stood together. We cannot just run, the scholar said. We have knowledge, proof, networks. The soldier added, we can fight without weapons. The healer nodded. We can heal those already broken. The noblewoman placed her hand over her heart. And I still have influence. They looked at Ethan. You changed our fate, the soldier said. Now let us help change others. Ethan felt something heavy settle in his chest. Not fear, not pride, but responsibility. "All right," he said quietly. "Then we do this right." As the ship lifted off once more, carrying not just survivors but a growing purpose, a message spread quietly through the darker corners of the galaxy. The auction age was ending. And it was ending because one human had chosen to stand, and others had chosen to stand with him. The ship moved quietly through open space, no longer running, no longer hiding, but not careless either. Ethan set a steady course toward a cluster of neutral systems where law still mattered, even if it moved slowly. Inside the ship, something had changed. Fear was still there, but it no longer ruled. The 5 alien women were no longer just survivors. They were becoming a team. The scholar spent most of her time at the sensor console, learning the human systems with fast skill. Her mind worked like flowing water, connecting patterns others missed. She intercepted signals, traced hidden routes, and mapped the dark trade lines that fed the auctions. The soldier trained her body back to strength. Even injured, she moved with discipline, teaching the others simple defense, awareness, and how to move without panic. She never spoke of revenge, only readiness. The healer turned the cargo hold into a quiet medical space. She treated not only wounds but fear, exhaustion, and trauma. She reminded them to eat, to rest, to breathe. Even Ethan found himself listening when she spoke. The noblewoman began sending messages. Carefully, quietly, old allies, distant houses, neutral councils. She did not beg, she informed. She reminded the galaxy of laws it claimed to believe in. The youngest watched and learned. She helped where she could, carried supplies, cleaned tools, and asked questions. Her fear slowly changed into determination. Ethan watched them all, saying little. He fixed systems, checked routes, and stayed awake longer than he should. He felt responsible, even when they told him he was not alone anymore. Trouble came faster than expected. The scholar froze at her console one cycle, eyes wide. "We are being watched," she said. Ethan moved instantly. "By who?" "Many," she replied. "But one signal is different, official, heavy encryption." The noblewoman leaned closer. "A council fleet," the scholar nodded slowly. "And something else, a private coalition." The soldier clenched her fists. "They want control of the story." The healer looked worried. "Or silence." Ethan took a breath. "We don't run from law, we run from corruption. Open the channel." The screen lit up. A large alien appeared, wearing the markings of a neutral enforcement council. His voice was calm but cold. "Human Ethan Hale, you are requested to power down and prepare for inspection." "Requested," Ethan repeated. "Not ordered." The alien's eyes narrowed slightly. "You are transporting individuals connected to major criminal investigations." "They are witnesses," Ethan said, "and free beings." The alien paused. "That depends." Before Ethan could reply, another signal broke through. A second face appeared, sharp-eyed, confident, wearing no official marks. "Let's not pretend," the second figure said smoothly. "You embarrassed powerful people. Hand over the women and you walk away alive." Silence filled the ship. The youngest trembled. The healer placed a steady hand on her shoulder. Ethan looked straight ahead. "No," the second figure smiled. "Then you die," the scholar spoke quietly. "They will attack if we choose wrong." The noblewoman lifted her chin. "We choose right." Ethan cut the second signal. He turned to the council officer. "You want truth? Then you get all of it." He transmitted everything. Auction data, station maps, names, payment trails, recordings, not filtered, not edited. The council officer watched, expression changing as the scale became clear. "This is extensive," he said. "It's only the beginning," Ethan replied. "And if you try to take them by force, this data goes public everywhere." The officer hesitated. "You threaten the council." "I trust the council," Ethan said calmly. "I don't trust what hides behind it." The channel closed. Moments later, alarms sounded. Multiple ships appeared on sensors, not one side, not two, many. The private coalition moved first, firing without warning. Space exploded into motion. Ethan pushed the ship hard, engines screaming as beams cut past them. He flew with sharp focus, avoiding direct combat, drawing fire away from nearby civilian lanes. The soldier strapped herself into a support seat, calling out vectors. Left. Now. Roll. The scholar fed Ethan data faster than the ship systems could process alone. A blast struck their side. The ship shuddered. The healer cried out as she was thrown to the floor. The noblewoman grabbed a rail, steadying herself. Hold together. Ethan forced the ship into a narrow gravity wake near a small moon, using its pull to bend their path. One enemy ship followed too close and lost control, spiraling away. Then something unexpected happened. Council ships opened fire, not at Ethan but at the private attackers. The council officer's voice returned, strained but firm. Unauthorized engagement detected. Stand down. The private ships tried to flee. Some were disabled, others escaped. Silence returned, broken only by the hum of engines. Ethan slowed the ship. The council officer appeared again. You are under council protection. Temporarily. Ethan nodded. That's enough. They were escorted to a neutral world, bright, open, alive. For the first time since their capture, the 5 women walked under a real sky. Officials questioned them, but not harshly. Media gathered, but barriers held. Evidence spread like fire. Across the galaxy, auctions shut down overnight. Not all, but enough. The private coalition fractured. Some leaders vanished. Others were arrested. The market trembled. Ethan expected to be detained. Instead, he was asked to testify. He stood before a council chamber filled with many species. He did not shout. He did not threaten. He told the truth. When asked why he acted, his answer was simple. Because no one else did. The chamber was silent. Afterward, the 5 women stood with him on a high platform overlooking the city. The youngest spoke first. What happens now? The noblewoman smiled faintly. Now we rebuild. The soldier added, and we stay ready. The healer looked at Ethan. You could leave. Ethan looked out at the sky. I could, but I won't. The scholar nodded. Then this is not the end. No, Ethan said. It's the turning point. Far beyond that world, in places still dark and hidden, fear began to shift, because the galaxy had learned something dangerous. Humans did not just fight with weapons. They fought with choice. And they did not stop once they started. The galaxy did not change in one day. It never did. But after the hearings, after the evidence spread, after the first auction rings fell, something quiet and powerful began to move. Fear changed sides. Ethan stood on the balcony of the Neutral Worlds Council District, looking out over a city that never slept. Ships crossed the sky in steady lines. Life continued, unaware of how close it had come to accepting cruelty as normal forever. Behind him, the 5 alien women gathered. They were no longer prisoners. They were no longer victims. They were witnesses, leaders, and survivors. The council had offered protection, status, even rewards. Ethan had refused most of it. He accepted only one thing, permission to operate freely across neutral systems under observation but not control. He did not want power. He wanted reach. The noblewoman was the first to act. Using her name and forgotten titles, she contacted old houses and minor governments. She spoke carefully, not with anger but with facts. She reminded them that silence had a cost. Some ignored her. Others listened. A few joined openly. The scholar built networks. She worked with independent analysts, freed data brokers, and ethical traders. Together, they tracked money trails that once seemed invisible. Auction routes, shell companies, false registries. Every discovery became another crack in the dark economy. The soldier trained others. Not armies, but escorts, station guards, rescue crews. She taught discipline, awareness, and restraint. We protect, she told them. We do not become what we fight. The healer opened her hands to the broken. Former captives came to her. Not just from auctions, but from labor camps, war zones, forgotten colonies. She listened more than she spoke. She helped them remember who they were before fear defined them. The The youngest chose her own path. She stayed close to Ethan at first, then slowly stepped forward on her own. She learned languages, systems, laws. She became a bridge between survivors and the wider galaxy. Where others saw weakness, she carried understanding. Ethan watched all of it. He flew again. His ship became known not for weapons but for arrival. Where it appeared, people knew something would change. Sometimes that change was quiet, documents delivered, prisoners released, deals canceled. Sometimes it was loud, raids, shutdowns, arrests. There were threats, messages, warnings, attempts. Once a bomb was planted on a relay station Ethan had visited hours earlier. It failed. Another time his ship was sabotaged. The scholar found it before launch. The danger never fully left, but neither did resolve. One cycle deep in a border system, Ethan stood before a crowd of freed captives. Different species, different pasts, all carrying scars. "I didn't save you," he told them honestly. "You survived. I just refused to look away." A voice from the crowd called out, "Why you?" Ethan thought for a moment. "Because someone once asked me for help and I said yes." That answer spread farther than any speech. The auctions did not vanish completely. Evil rarely disappeared. It adapted, hid deeper, changed names, but now it was hunted. More importantly, it was no longer admired. In council halls, laws were strengthened. In trade routes, inspections increased. In dark corners, trust broke apart. Slavers turned on each other. Buyers feared exposure more than loss. The market starved. One quiet night back aboard the ship, the 5 women gathered around a simple table. The healer spoke first. "Do you ever wish you had not come to that station?" Ethan considered it. "No, I wish I had arrived sooner." The soldier nodded. "There will always be another station." "Yes," Ethan said, "but there will also be more people willing to stop them." The noblewoman smiled. "You changed how the galaxy sees humans." Ethan shook his head. "Humans changed that themselves. I'm just one example." The scholar looked thoughtful. "Examples matter." The youngest looked at the stars through the viewport. "When I was hanging there, I thought the universe was empty," she said softly. "Now I know it was just waiting." Time passed. Years for some. Stories spread, growing larger than truth. Some said a human destroyed entire empires alone. Others said he commanded fleets. Ethan laughed when he heard those. He still flew a small ship. He still fixed his own engines. He still slept badly when too many people suffered at once. One day, at a distant outpost, Ethan received a message from a young trader. "I saw what you did," the message said. "I didn't interfere. I thought it wasn't my place. I was wrong. Next time I will stand." Ethan read it twice, then once more. That night he stood alone beneath unfamiliar stars. The 5 women joined him one by one. The noblewoman spoke quietly. "The galaxy will never be clean." "I know," Ethan replied. The soldier added, "But it can be better." "Yes," Ethan said. The healer placed her hand on his arm. "You are tired," he smiled faintly. "So are you." The scholar looked out into space. "What happens when you are gone?" Ethan did not answer right away. Finally, he said, "Then others will continue. That's the point." The youngest nodded slowly. "You didn't create followers, you created courage." Far away, in places where auctions once thrived, empty platforms rusted. Chains lay unused. Halls stood silent. And whenever someone tried to rebuild them, a question followed like a shadow. What if a human shows up? Not because humans were the strongest, not because they were the richest, but because, once seen, humanity could not be unseen. And once someone stood against the darkness, standing became possible for everyone else. The galaxy remembered that. And it never forgot the day 5 lives were saved, not by a weapon, but by a choice.